Coming up on Hoosier Sports Nite, the men's soccer team is hitting their stride, coming off of 3 shutouts in a row.
And hear from Coach Woodson and the men's basketball team about the upcoming season. This is Hoosier Sports Nite.
Hello and welcome to Hoosier Sports Nite. I'm Kara Martin.
And I'm Audrey Hausberger. We're kicking off the show this week with Indiana men's soccer on a hot streak.
Our IUS TV men's soccer beat reporter, Ta Loud, joins us in studio to break down the team's recent shutout victories. Ta?
Thanks, Kara and Audrey. The Indiana men's soccer team completed its 4-game homestand earlier this week. Despite losing the first match in overtime, the Hoosiers won the next 3 by outscoring their opponents 13-0. 9 of those goals came in the outing against Trine. This was Indiana's biggest win since September of 1997. To open the match, Victor Becerra, Sam Sarver, and Tommy Mahalik all netted in the span of 1 minute and 35 seconds, making it the 5th shortest time duration of 3 goals in program history. In addition to that, the 11 seconds that separated goal number 7 and 8 just before the stroke of halftime is the 2nd shortest time span between consecutive scores in school history. Meanwhile, this past Tuesday evening, Indiana returned to Big Ten play in style. IU took care of Ohio State 3-0 thanks to a trio of goal scorers. Tommy Mahalik finished one off and made it 1-0, curling it into the post early into the match. Then just before the stroke of halftime, the Buckeyes were down to 10 men after committing a last-man foul on Sam Sarver. This enabled the Hoosiers to come out in the second half with more flow in the attacking third. After the hour mark, Malun Gumbale clinically bent one into the net to claim his first of the season. Finally, with just 5 minutes remaining, Brett Beebe became the latest player to open his account by capping off a fantastic team goal. Indiana improves to 8-3-1 and will travel to University Park this Sunday to face off against the Penn State Nittany Lions. Back to you at the desk.
Thanks, Ta. Heading over to women's soccer, the team earned a key victory this past weekend over the Northwestern Wildcats. Our IUS TV Sports women's soccer beat reporter Emma Watson has more.
This past Friday, the Indiana women's soccer team traveled to Evanston, Illinois to take on the Northwestern Wildcats. The Hoosiers came away with all 3 points with a clinical 1-0 victory. The lone goal of the game happened in the 42nd minute when Olivia Vos sent a booming ball into the box that found the head of Megan Wampler. Wampler touched the ball past the Northwestern goalkeeper for her first career goal in an IU uniform. From the second half whistle on, IU's defense was rock solid. Northwestern had an excellent chance in the dying embers of the game, but freshman Jamie Gerstenberg made an acrobatic save to keep the Hoosiers in the lead. Gerstenberg recorded her 8th career shutout, and IU's defense tied the single-season record of shutouts with their 9th. Head coach Erwin Van Bennekom spoke about the game and the sense of purpose within his players.
Controlled, even though they were serving balls in, and I think we're pretty controlled in keeping the ball away from the goal. So overall, on the road here, on turf, different environment, and to get a win is massive. And, especially against an opponent that's in 3rd place. You know, we're now stepping over them. Plus, we got the head-to-head. It's huge.
Outside of the scores and stats, one of the heartwarming moments of the game came in the last minute when 5th-year senior Allison Jordan was subbed onto the pitch. Jordan suffered an ACL injury in the spring against Penn State and was ruled out for the season. There were doubts that she would even make an appearance in this campaign. But 2 surgeries and months of rehabilitation later, Jordan returned and got to celebrate a victory with her teammates on a soccer field again.
She decided to come back for a 6th year, right? She's 7 years older than some of these guys. And to come back, and I told her, I said, it might not be for anything. It might be for 2 minutes here and there to clear balls and to win headers. And for her to come back, and then you see the response of the team and her emotion. Besides winning games, that's why we do it. You know, the determination, the fight for her to come back and want to come back. And that shows a lot about her teammates, the program, and where we're heading. And so special. I had chills when she went in.
Indiana will head back to State College this upcoming Wednesday. The Northwestern win propelled the Hoosiers to 3rd in the Big Ten standings, setting up a collision course with Penn State. The game will start at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and will air in prime time on ESPNU. For IUS TV Sports, I'm Emma Watson.
The women's soccer team will travel to College Park to take on the Maryland Terrapins this Sunday.
The Indiana Hoosiers men's and women's basketball seasons are under a month away from starting. Our Jevin McCoskey traveled to Indianapolis to speak to the men's team during Big Ten Media Day.
The newly renamed and remodeled Gainbridge Fieldhouse hosted the entire Big Ten over a 2-day period for its first Big Ten Basketball Media Day on October 7th and October 8th. Michigan State men's head coach Tom Izzo, Purdue men's head coach Matt Painter, and first-year Indiana men's basketball head coach Mike Woodson all took the stage to answer questions about their teams, and Coach Mike Woodson is glad to finally be home.
So, with that being said, it's good to be back in Bloomington. It's good to be back here in Indianapolis, where I was born and raised, and played all my high school basketball here in the city. It's good to be back.
Next, players representing their universities took the stand to answer questions from the media. IU was represented by Trace Jackson Davis, Race Thompson, and Rob Finnessy. It's crystal clear that this year's team has something that last year's roster and last year's coaching staff did not. But what stands out the most? Ask anyone on this year's roster, and they will all tell you the exact same thing.
I mean, I want to say it was bad before, but obviously if it's better than the previous situation, obviously feel it. So I would say it's a lot better. Guys are happy. On and off the court, we bond pretty well with everything, and yeah, pretty much everyone's good.
IU star junior Trace Jackson Davis mentioned the summer trip to the Bahamas helped the team bond both on and off the basketball court.
But at the same time, with the new guys getting incorporated onto our team and just being with us and only us together, I think it was really good for us. And then playing together for the first time, I thought that was really good too, especially doing it early in the season.
For IUS TV Sports, I'm Jevin McCoskey.
She's been terrific.
The Cream and Crimson open their season right here at home on November 9th against Eastern Michigan. Be sure to follow Jevin, Evan Kamiko, and Noah Harrison for updates throughout the season.
Indiana volleyball went 1-1 on their East Coast road trip last weekend. In their first match, they beat Rutgers in 4 sets. Indiana's front line played well, recording 15 blocks and forcing 27 errors. Brianna Edwards was the standout player against the Scarlet Knights, racking up 19 kills. The Maryland Terrapins shut down the Hoosiers the next day, sweeping the match and holding Indiana to just a .063 hit percentage. After Maryland dominated the first 2 sets, Indiana played better in the third, but ultimately the Terrapins closed it out in 3 sets. After the weekend, Indiana now sits at 8-10 overall and 2-4 in the Big Ten. They are in for a tough weekend ahead as they face both number 9 Nebraska and number 12 Minnesota on the road.
Your Hoosier field hockey team had 2 games this weekend, winning one and losing the other. In the first game, IU upset the number 16 ranked Ohio State Buckeyes 3-1 at Ohio State. IU's goals were scored by Kira Curlin, Yip Van Wonderen, and Maggie Carter. In the second game of the weekend, IU faced Kent State. IU's Megan Dillon scored late in the first quarter to put the Hoosiers ahead. However, even though they put in a good fight, they ended up losing the game 1-2 in overtime. Your Hoosier field hockey team will be back in action Friday at home at 3 p.m. to face off against the Michigan State Spartans.
Coming up after the break, we crown this week's Hoosier Highlight Athlete of the Week.
Plus, we have the latest on Indiana golf, tennis, and softball. You're watching Hoosier Sports Nite. Welcome back to Hoosier Sports Nite.
Joining us in studio for this week's Hoosier Highlight is IUS TV sports reporter Kelsey Dennehy. Kelsey, take it away.
Thanks, Karen Audrey. This week's IUS TV Sports Athlete of the Week is women's soccer defender Allison Jordan. The graduate student from Scottsdale, Arizona has worked extremely hard to come back from her senior season-ending injury against Penn State last spring. The 5'9" defender returned to the field for the first time since her injury on Sunday to help secure a big win for the Hoosiers against Northwestern. Since her freshman year, Jordan has recorded 61 games played, having started all 61 of those matchups. Throughout her career, Jordan has been an everyday player and a leader for the Hoosiers. Jordan's impact has been felt off the field as well. After suffering a season-ending injury her sophomore year, she started a club called Everybody Plays. The program allows IU athletes to mentor those with disabilities through sport. Jordan has continued to lead this program throughout her years at IU, giving many people the opportunity to become athletes like herself. Next, Jordan and the Hoosiers will travel to College Park, Maryland for a Sunday, October 17th matchup against the Maryland Terrapins. Make sure to tune into the Big Ten Network to follow your women's soccer team through the rest of their season. Back to you, Audrey.
The men's golf team took home first place in the Purdue Fall Invitational at the Camden Golf Course up in West Lafayette. Thanks to a stellar final round, the Hoosiers shot up the leaderboard to edge out Purdue by 1 stroke in team play. A 281 7-under captured them their first team title since 2014. They were led by senior Mitch Davis, who shot a final round 4 under 68 to finish tied for 3rd overall. That was 1 stroke better than sophomore Drew Sailors, who finished tied for 9th with a total of 2 under for the tournament. They will have a quick turnaround as the Quill Valley Collegiate Invitational begins Sunday in Vero Beach, Florida.
The IU men's tennis team had positive results at the Clemson Invitational this past weekend, competing against Clemson, Liberty, and Mississippi State. The doubles pairs of Patrick Fletchell and Jagger Saylor and Carson Haskins and Luka Vukovic went 2-1 for the weekend. The team also had a strong performance on the singles side, with Ilya Tirapolsky winning a thriller on Friday and Vikash Singh winning 2 of his 3 matches. The Hoosiers will be in Louisville this weekend for the Louisville Invitational.
On the other side of the court, the IU women's tennis team sent 3 players to Xavier Cincinnati Invitational this past weekend. Rose Hugh went 2-1 in singles with wins over 2 Northern Kentucky players. After dropping her first match, Mila Majic won her next 2 over players from Bellarmine and Northern Kentucky. Rose Hugh and Lexi Kubas teamed up in doubles to take wins over Xavier and Cincinnati. The Hoosiers will be back in action again next week Thursday when they travel to Tennessee for the ITA Regional Championships.
The Indiana softball team played 2 games this past weekend to wrap up their fall exhibition slate. The Hoosiers traveled to Evansville Friday night to play the University of Southern Indiana Screaming Eagles. The 2018 Division II national champs proved to be a tough test for the Hoosiers, defeating IU 3-0. However, the game was played for a greater purpose. Proceeds from the game were donated to USI senior catcher Courtney Schoolcraft's family as Courtney is battling cancer. The Hoosiers then returned home Saturday to round out the fall at Andy Moore Field, welcoming the Danville Area Community College Jaguars to Bloomington. The Hoosiers were dominant as they routed the Jags 26-2 Saturday night, finishing the fall season at 6-1 and putting an exclamation point on a very successful preseason for the Hoosiers. A schedule for the spring has yet to be released, but head coach Shonda Stanton and the Hoosiers will be eager to carry this momentum over to Big Ten play in 2022.
Joining us now in studio with the Candy Stripe Calendar Report is IUS TV sports reporter Adam Oppenheim. Adam?
Thanks, Kara. I'm Adam Oppenheim, and I'm here to tell you about all the Hoosier sporting events happening this weekend. Starting off on the courts, the IU men's tennis team travels to Kentucky for the Louisville Invite this Friday through Sunday. The cross-country team is also on the road this week as they travel to Madison, Wisconsin for the Nuttycombe Invitational. The women's field hockey team looks to get back to 500 as they host the Michigan State Spartans at home in Bloomington. On Saturday, the men's and women's swim and dive teams travel to Evanston to take on the Northwestern Wildcats. The IU football team looks to bounce back after a loss to Penn State 2 weeks ago as they host the Michigan State Spartans for this year's homecoming game. On Sunday, the men's golf team travels to Vero Beach, Florida for the Quill Valley Collegiate Invitational. They are looking to back up their first place finish at the Purdue Fall Invitational. The men's soccer team looks to continue their 3-game win streak as they go to Pennsylvania to take on the Penn State Nittany Lions. The women's field hockey team plays host to the second-ranked Michigan Wolverines and looks to break their undefeated record. The women's soccer team will travel to College Park to take on the Maryland Terrapins. And finally, the women's volleyball team travels to Minneapolis to take on the number 12-ranked Minnesota Golden Gophers. That's all for the sports schedule for this coming weekend. Back to you at the desk.
And that's our show for the week. Thank you so much for tuning in.
Don't forget to follow us on Twitter and Instagram at IUSTV Sports. For our production crew behind me, I'm Audrey Hausberger.
And I'm Kara Martin. We'll see you next week.